beautiful being. Running a few minutes late today. Hope you don't mind. It's just nice to be out here. Yeah, the builders are still busy across the way. But oh my God, it's not raining. There's actually sunshine. We had big floods in New Zealand. Not here. I'm on a hill. I don't get floods. But there was a lot of rain for a long time. And I was just thinking of all the people that were sitting there watching the water rise and thinking, thank God it stopped. So, I'm going to turn this around. Hi, Mike. Going to turn the camera around and show you the garden. And it's, you know, it's midwinter, so all the trees have, well, a lot of the trees, clearly not all of them, have had their leaves fall off. But that's because spring is coming and everything's quite green, including this bed that I need to weed. It's a matter of time. But everything is growing, and I like that I've managed to cover this ground with cineraria because nothing else is growing there, and it's nice not to have to weed. And I still need to prune, but because I haven't pruned yet, look at this. It's just covered in, you know, it has rained, just not right now. And I'm always going to enjoy these flowers and share them with you. It's quiet, apart from the aeroplanes when they go over. And I actually moved some of the cinerarias because I want these bluebells to have space to grow, and they do. There's 3 big patches of them. And I hope to see these irises flower. It's been a long time, but hopefully, I mean, they're looking green and leafy. It's just a question of whether they ever flower. There's a lot of bulbs up in the back garden, but they don't flower like they used to because it's so much warmer here. You know, you need a cold winter to make spring bulbs or winter bulbs flower. So we'll see. But I enjoy this. These beautiful, I mean, really, this is a house plant 30 years ago. A Radimachia. People used to call them Raddies. But I planted it outside because I didn't want it in my house, and look how big it's got since. Big trunk. And I've cut it down many times because, as you can see, I've cut it down because otherwise it just goes up and up, and it's better for the tree if I don't let it do that. And look, the magnolia has lost all of its leaves, but it's covered in flowers. These will turn into flowers. This particularly. Come on, camera, focus please. Come on. It's not doing it. Try it this way. There we go. That is a magnolia bud. And in spring, in October or sometime, it will come up and it'll be beautiful. But the nice thing about the magnolia not being all leafy is that we can see the hen and chicken fern really, really well. And I love that. It's beautiful. And then there's this other one. It doesn't have a fancy name. I think it might be an asplenium. But it's a really common New Zealand native. And I just love it. I love these ferns. And you can see that I have not yet had an opportunity to prune. This fuchsia is very leggy. It'll get tidied up. And this bush, which is basically dead, is going to get pulled out. So that's my final really big job that I have to do, and that and finishing the mulching heap, which will happen. You know, there's always something in a garden. But I celebrate this purple cineraria, which is actually starting to look old, but it's come out before everything else. And over here you can see that the bulb, the Spiraxis garden is just coming up, and it's going to be very colourful in spring. So this is the other one. This one actually started flowering first. So I enjoy that. And now I'm going to go inside, turn the camera around again. You can see all the stuff that hasn't been tidied up yet. See, I don't show you all the scruffy stuff, but that's life in a garden. You always have things that need to be tidied up. But I've left the keys in the door. I'm going to go inside and tell you what I've been doing for God of me today. And we started a big new trunk. And when I say we, excuse me, I mean the 0 Point Field and I. I never write alone. It was a few months now that really the 0 Point Field at some point said, hey, can I talk? And I was hardly going to say, nah, I want to keep doing it my way. So today, really, we are talking about making good decisions. Excuse me, I've got to organise this. It's a nice little stand, but I I have to jiggle it when I sit down. So there we go. So, because last week, what I was writing about was, to my surprise, because this really was a surprise to me, we've been unpacking the law of attraction for the last little while. And the 0 point field let us all in on something that I hadn't realised, which is that actually it is the law of attraction. It is what makes the law of attraction work, if you like. And then it said, well, really there's only one law, and it's even more important than the law of attraction. And that is the law that you should really love yourself before you love anybody else. And the reason why that is the first and only law, that if we truly choose to and find a way to live by this law, that everything else has to work out, is because you and I are not really separate from anything. So whatever the best choice is for me actually is the best choice for everyone else. And then the fun part becomes, and I have so been here and I go here on quite a regular basis, okay, if I am one and with everything, if I'm connected with everything, and every choice that I make for myself is also a choice for everybody else, what the heck is the right choice? You know, and you can get into serious over-analysis, and, you know, your mind can go absolutely la-la over stuff like this. Because, I mean, we were being quite simplistic in the way we were writing about this, to say, well, some choices are quite simple, and, you know, you can just, most of the time, you can follow in the footsteps of other people who have been in similar situations. Hi, Cindy, lovely to see you. You can follow the footsteps of people who've been in the same kind of situation as you, and, you know, it's probably going to turn out okay. But even with a simple situation, you think, well, I need to choose what's truly, really right for me. And you think, well, how the hell do I know that just because lots of other people did this and it turned out all right for them, how do I know it's right for me? And I can look back on apparently really obvious and simple choices that I made in my earlier life and think, well, if I'd known how to do what I know how to do now, I would have made a different choice, but I didn't. So I did sort of follow, you know, the path of least resistance. It wasn't necessarily what lots of other people were doing, but it was the most obvious thing for me, and it wasn't actually right at all. Well, it sort of was, and it sort of was. Anyway, so that's a simple choice. But what about when it's really complicated and you talk to your friends and you get professional advice and you still have no frickin' idea what to do? Because you realise, and I'm quoting Dr. Joe Dispenza in this because it was he who wrote about this first in his books, and I've heard him say it a number of times in reference to this kind of problem actually, and it's absolutely true, that there are some things where it doesn't matter how much expertise the person has, or how much they know you or love you or care for you, or how much you respect them or anything, those people are still not you. And only you are in the middle of your incredibly complicated, difficult, complex, whatever it is, conflicted, God, I don't know what to do with this quandary situation. And ultimately only you can make the choice. And you sit there and you think, well, I've thought about this and I've thought about that, and your brain goes round and round and round in circles, and you can't find a way out, and you can't find a way forward, and you think, well, hell, I don't know. And what do you do then? And most of us have been there. And you know, and your brain is just going round in very tight circles, and it doesn't feel good, and you feel completely lost, really. I've certainly been there. So that's what most people think of as how you make decisions. And I was thinking to myself about what would come next, and I had to just sit quietly and wait and get all the expectations and thoughts that were in my mind about, well, this is what comes next, out of the way, because I wanted to hear what the 0 point field, how it wanted to say this. And it said, well, actually, you've got 3 compasses in an internal guidance systems, and only one of them is in your mind. Only one of them is in your brain. And Now let's have a look at those. Let's have a chat about these internal guidance systems that all humans have, and many humans don't know how to use two of them. So you're left just with this, and when this is in a spin and doesn't know what to do, well, you're screwed, aren't you? So let's look at these other guidance systems, or let's look at these three compasses. And I was thinking, well, which one comes first? Because there are three, right? There's one in your head. Everybody knows about that, unless they, really do not have a mind. They're plugged into a coma machine or something. A good number of people are actually aware, or may be aware, or have some idea that the heart can give you a guidance. And it's not necessarily about following your feelings. That was the very first thing that the 0 point field said after it started talking about the heart. Few people know that there is a big old brain in your gut, and your enteric nervous system is another guidance system. Now, we have reference to this in our language. Trust your gut, trust your feelings. You get those things in your gut. You have a gut feeling. But we don't understand how it works or how to use it. And actually, I'm really interested to see what the 0 point field writes about that, because my own knowledge of how to work with the enteric nervous system as a form of guidance is quite limited. My own experience is limited because I've really only sort of realised that I've been ignoring this whole aspect of how humans navigate in three-dimensional reality for my entire life, like until the Blue Healers, as translated by Jan Wakefield, made those of us who spend time with them aware that we got three brains and we need to use all three. Oh my God, how obvious. And then I realised how incoherent my enteric nervous system was and how much fear there was and everything down there. And I've been working with it ever since, and it's been kind of interesting and at times amazing and at times really, really hard. So we have three compasses. And I thought to myself, okay, 0 point field, which one's first? And I could feel my brain going, like the first one is the heart. And most people just think automatically, my first compass, my first way to get through the world is the brain. No, it's not. I'm sorry. As a human, it's not. It's limited. And there's there's going to be so much in this whole chunk. But this brain, and I think this will be the third one that we write about, the brain is amazing, but it is limited unless you know how to connect it up with these other things to access different information. It is limited to what you can see with your eyes, hear with your ears, smell with your nose, taste with your mouth, and sense with your skin. That is the information it processes. And when you're in a quandary, or when you're trying to think, okay, I'm making this decision that's going to have an impact on me for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 40, 50, 60 years, and some decisions do, how do I know? How do I get a feeling of time? Brain can't do that. It doesn't know. So the 0 point field said the first compass in every human is the heart. And then it says, and I had to look up a few facts because I just wanted to get the language right. There are 40,000 neurons in your heart, and they have little neurites, little like branches on a tree. So they have 40,000 neurons. It's a small wee brain. I think isn't there 100? Oh God, I can't remember. I used to know the number of how many neurons there are in a human brain. There's a lot of them. 40,000 neurons in your heart doesn't sound like much, but the heart is amazing. I found it the most faithful and true and honest guide through really difficult things, and I've gotten better at listening to it and being able to connect to it and get that information. So just let me get that out, at the get-go. So the brain can get completely bogged and confused. The heart can get incoherent, and when your heart is incoherent, you don't got nothing from it. It's just a mess. And an incoherent heart, by the way, if it keeps on being incoherent because you're stressed and out of sorts and angry or depressed or whatever it is, you do that for a long time, it's possible your heart will get sick, because when the heart beats incoherently, it's not so good for it. I mean, short term, everybody's going to get upset and have things go on, but long term, if your heart keeps beating incoherently, you can get sick. And by the way, the heart sends a whole ton of information to the brain to tell the brain how to run the body. And if your heart's incoherent, then you get static going up there, and so the body gets to be really disorganized as well. So the heart, when it's coherent, is amazing, and it drives order in the body, and it gets all this information, and I've learned how to use it that way. When it's not coherent, that's another thing. Now, I expected the 0-point field to want to talk about heart coherence, and it didn't, and that surprised me. The first thing that it actually explained was that if you're in a quandary and you need an answer, and you have to have the skills. It's not talking about the how-to right now. It's just saying if you can connect into one single proton that is in your heart, because remember, one proton anywhere in your body or the universe or anywhere, that one proton in our universe contains all the information and the knowledge and the wisdom and the experience of the whole universe the whole time. That's it. It does. There's maths to show that that is true. So if all of that information and experience and wisdom is in one proton, all you need to do to access that is get inside one proton somehow and connect with the information. Remember, we're not talking about how. But let's say you know how and you do that. Once that proton is resonating with new information, it's going to spread to all the other protons and the rest of the universe, and you're in there, so you get the new information. It's a pretty cool way to access information. And remember also that the proton's entangled with everything, so when you get that information and you make a change, everything gets that. Everything is updated. There's a thing that's been rattling in my brain and I keep missing it because I'm in the middle of another sentence. So that proton could be anywhere in your body, but we're talking about the heart. So you can pick one proton. The important thing is, the piece I forgot to say, is that remember how the 0-point field, and you can find this if you go back a few weeks, and it's easier on YouTube than it is here because you don't have to scroll. If you go back a few weeks, the 0-point field and I were talking about this endlessly repeating pattern that is very coherent, it's very loving, it's very organized, and it structures every little piece of matter in the universe, and it holds everything together. It creates, it manifests, it is actually the law of attraction because it just makes more of itself. And the more we can align ourselves or resonate in harmony with that frequency, because frequency carries information, that frequency, which if you like is the frequency of universal mind, contains all of the information of universal mind. So if we can make one little proton, which is going to communicate to all the others as soon as we connect, resonate in harmony with universal mind, then just like you tune your radio to the station you want and you get the music or the voice or whatever it is, you tune that one proton to the frequency of the universal mind and you're going to get access to the information you need. And I'm not talking about this as theory. I do this lots and it works. And I'm really interested in working out how to teach that to other people because it ought to be possible. We'll see. So this is why the heart is really, really cool for this. But then, okay, so that's where I'm coming from. And the 0-point field says, okay, so you've got that thing that if you tune one proton to the frequency, the information's going to come to you, you're going to get an aha, or you're going to go, oh, I've got an idea, or you're just going to let go because somehow you suddenly know that it's going to be okay. And then you follow that feeling or that download that you got. And you're kind of surprised, but things work out better than you expect. And, and you start to trust it. So that's one way that our heart can really guide us. Although you might say, well, I can put my attention to proton in any part of my body. Why would I do it in my heart? Why is that special? And this was a piece I kept feeling there was something that was missing. What's missing in the explanation that we wanted to give today is, okay, so you have these 40,000 neurons in your heart, and those 40,000 neurons regulate your heart function, how fast it needs to beat to keep you alive and keep your brain supplied and keep you warm and everything else. I mean, it's it's cool, and it's getting information from your body and sending information to your body, and that's fine. But there was a missing piece. When those neurons are working, they produce a measurable electromagnetic field, and it can be quite strong if the heart is coherent. If it's incoherent, there's less energy. If the heart is coherent, there's more. But it's measurable. There is electromagnetic field that the heart makes, and the electrical part comes from the neurons because they're firing. Now, this is a really cool piece of information, which I did know, but I hadn't thought of it until it was like, you got to talk about this too. The heart, when it pumps, it's not like a pump that goes push, ta, ta, ta. It's not like that at all. The heart actually contracts, the whole thing spins blood. It actually makes vortexes as it contracts. You look at how it's formed and the way it works, and the whole thing is about spirals and vortexes. It's incredible. And so the heart actually spins the blood as it pushes it through and out. And the way it spins the blood changes depending on how we're feeling and what we're doing and what we need. It's not just one set of vortices that's going through the body. It spins out whatever information needs to get sent. That to me is incredible. And I was thinking, well, how does the heart make a magnetic field? Because it does. It's got, the neurons, obviously, electrical. But where does the magnetism come from? Well, blood is an electrically conductive fluid, and it's got electrically charged particles in it. And when you move electrically charged particles in solution, you get a magnetic field. So that's how the electromagnetic field happens. And the more coherent your heart is, the bigger that field is. Now here's where the heart becomes my guide and yours. That electromagnetic field extends around your body. Up to 3 meters it's been measured, 9 feet. It's smaller if you're stressed and shut down. I'm getting warm here. I personally think that it probably goes further, but we just can't measure it. Because where do we stop, So here you are with your heart making an electromagnetic field. And here's someone else with their heart making an electromagnetic field. You're sitting in a room listening to somebody or having a conversation with someone. This person walks in and you don't even know why you suddenly start to feel uncomfortable. There's information in their electromagnetic field, just like there's information in yours. Your heart's electromagnetic field picks up the information from their electromagnetic field and vice versa. How do you think we're all so connected? This is kind of part of how it happens. And it gets that information. And that information sends a signal to your body and says, hey, there's somebody over there that I don't feel comfortable with. And you don't know why, but that's what's happened. You know when that really angry person walks into the room and the whole room changes? This is part of how it happens. And so without even thinking, you suddenly think, oh, I want to go for a walk outside. You don't even notice this person because you're busy talking to your friend. But you say, oh, let's go outside. And you leave. And you got that information and you never noticed it. This is how the heart guides us. Now, in my experience, the heart guides us even more than that. I can tune into my heart and it gives me a sense of the future. It gives me a sense of the past. It's incredible the information that I can receive through this tool that I have because I've learned how to use it. But we are giving you these basic ideas to understand that it's not just hoodly-floozily, oh well, oneness knows how to do this, what's it based on? This is the physical basis of how these things work. It's not magic, it's not new age, it's science. Your heart produces this electromagnetic field, and so does everyone else's. And so do the animals, and so does the earth, and so does everything produce some kind of frequency information, and it's all entangled in the field, the 0-point field, it's all entangled. So all of that information is kind of available as frequency, and when you learn how to use your heart to read frequency, you can access the information you need. You do have to be able to get out of complete confusion and panic or whatever has hit you enough to connect with the information. That's a skill. Anyone can learn that if they are willing to try and to practice and to learn and to get feedback and to realize that if they can't do it yet, it's just that it's feedback. Okay, you're not that good. I'm not that good. It's taken me a while to get to this point, and probably, in however long, I'll be better at it. So that's the first compass is your heart. The second compass that we're going to talk about when we get to it, and we're not finished with this one yet, is the gut. And after that, we talk about the brain, because the brain allows us to interface with our 3D reality. And that's awesome. We need that. But when you put that rational, logical, assessing, analysing thing that, I've got this information from my heart, I've got this information from my gut, I can see this, I can hear that, I can remember this, I can, and you put it all together, that's when your friends look at you and say, how did you know that? Or, man, I didn't say anything about that, but you just knew. You just know. When you put those things together, you just know. And the really challenging decisions, the situation is still challenging. But when you have a way to connect with this kind of information, you're still going to find bumps on the road and scary things and whatever. But you know that if you just have a moment to pull yourself together and calm down and connect, that you can get the information you need. And that's that's been my experience, and I know that's what the 0 Point Field and I are talking about and want to explain and teaching. But you've got to understand a little bit about it first. So that's what we wrote about today. And if you're curious, if you want to know more, the link to my Patreon is underneath this post. And in a couple of days, I'll be reading exactly what we wrote onto video, and I will post it on my Patreon. And to see it, all you need to do is follow me for free, because I think this information should be out there. So if you already do that, thank you very much. I love knowing that you watch. I love your comments. I love hearing from you. And if you're curious, well, it costs you nothing to try, except some of your time and your attention, and that is valuable and precious. So thank you for your time and attention today. I really appreciate it. Big love. I'll be back next week. Until then, bye-bye.